Hello, I'm Lorraine Ollie, and we're here with Linda Cardellini.
Hi.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is a LA Times chat for one of my personal favorite shows right now,
Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel very good.
and that would be Bloodline. So, first off, I just have to say one of the great things about Bloodline, other than you're in it, is that for anyone, it makes you feel like your family is incredibly functional when you see how dysfunctional the Rayburns are. So I just have to say, on that front, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. But the crazy part about that is even though you can separate yourself and think, oh, thank God my family's not that dysfunctional, you can still somehow relate, which is unsettling.
Right, right. Because there's all the secrets, and we know in every family there's these secrets. But with the Rayburns, the secrets are so intense, and literally there are bodies that are buried. It's not just a metaphor.
Yes, there are.
Right. So going into this season, we're in season 2, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the show, it is. Should we just give like a little synopsis? Do you want me to do it? Or?
Sure. Yeah, you do it.
Okay. All right.
And then I'll steal what you say, and then I'll use it later to talk about the show.
Excellent. Good. Excellent. I don't even need credit. That's totally fine. So it is a Netflix original series, and it's sort of a psychological thriller drama set in the Florida Keys, which in itself is pretty spooky. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's pretty spooky. Mm-hmm. Prominent family there. Seemingly everything is wonderful on the outside, yet it is not wonderful.
Right.
So, and you are playing the daughter, Meg.
Yes.
Who we see her in the first season, this overachiever, this almost like a people pleaser, imploding more and more under this intense pressure.
Yes.
So what is that like in season 2 to carry Meg through into an even more complex storyline?
It's interesting because it stretches out for such a long period of time where they are they're in this pressure cooker. So, and you have to, in the meantime, be living a day-to-day life. So you have each of the characters dealing with it in a very different way. And I think we do, each of the siblings, that are carrying the secret from season 1 into season 2, right. We all deal with it different ways, and we sort of all unravel in different ways. And at any moment, it seems like one of us might actually just sort of burst under all the pressure. Exactly,
you expect it. It's like, okay, someone is going to like physically implode here.
Right.
Because it is intense.
Yes, it is. It is. And that's, that's one of the amazing challenges of this show is got an intensity to it, and sort of these unthinkable deeds that we do and are trying to cover up, puts them in survival mode in a way that has to sustain for many, many, many episodes through many different things that we have to do. So it's an interesting, as an actress, it's an interesting thing to modulate and to play. And then as we go into it, we don't always know what's going to happen at the end. So there are lots of turns and twists that you can't even plan for.
Right, because I was going to say, going into it, like before season 1, when you were sort of looking at this, there's just no way you could have ever known how entangled this whole plot was going to become and how intense this is going to be. So as you're moving along, were you thinking, wow, like this is pretty heavy duty? I mean, was there any points where you're just like, this is kind of intense and scary?
Yes, absolutely. The end of season 1, there are about the last 3 or 4 episodes. Up until that point, Meg's sort of operating, and she has her own flaws, and she has she has her life, and she has the secrets of her family, but she's experienced them in a different way than the rest of her family has. So she's a separate person from who Danny or John or Kevin is. She had sort of a separate childhood than them in some ways because she's younger than them. So each person is somewhat that much more removed from the initial incident that happened when they were kids, and Meg doesn't even remember most of it, which I think is an interesting thing that happens in real families where your experience as the first child is very different than your experience as the last child, especially if you have a big family.
True, right.
My sister's 13 years older than I am, and I'm the youngest of 4, and she's the oldest. And I feel like, parents change so much from the first child to the last child. And I know myself having a child, with my first child, if she's my only child, I'm very, very, you're more of a neurotic parent. I think by the, they always joke around about the second, third, fourth, just let them eat dirt. But I think that, and I think that part of that, I think Meg is also, growing up became the only girl in the family, and that informs who she is and what kind of relationship she had with her parents. And I think anyway, so she's operating at a normal level, even though she's doing some bad things that we see. The first scene you see her in, you know that she's a liar.
Right.
And well, you don't know until you figure out what she was doing, which I thought was interesting. And that, of course, carries through that we're all just have to lie. You know, somebody in the second season says you rape her, and you lie until it's not convenient for you anymore. And I think that that's definitely true. And I think the more interesting thing about them is to figure out when they're not lying and why they choose not to lie in certain circumstances.
It's like, wow, they didn't lie there.
Yeah, but she's, you know, but even still, until she picks up the phone and helps John do what he needs to do, or thinks she's helping John, her life doesn't necessarily change too much. I mean, Danny coming in sort of rattles everybody, and things are starting to change and things are starting to spiral. But until that actual thing happens in the last part of this first season, things don't hit such a high pitch in terms of tension and drama. And in those last 4 episodes, to get back, this is long, but to get back to what we were talking about, sorry. In those last 4 episodes, there was a certain pitch where everything was, it was so panicked.
Yeah.
And it sort of crescendos for 4 episodes, all the things that our characters are doing to sort of help John. In our minds, we're helping him. And what that means to them. And so to start the next season, there is still a level of that, but my character has moved away and she's started over.
She's in
New
New York
mind,
now.
She started over, and she is trying to become somehow different and trying to compartmentalize. But at the same time, that same level of tension that started as sort of the last couple episodes of season 1, there is bubbling beneath the surface there.
Yeah, and she gets, I mean, she physically moves to New York and gets sucked back into it anyway.
Which is interesting too, because she also almost asks permission of everybody. So she has this, feeling of being so enmeshed with her family that she's very codependent. She doesn't really, on one hand, she wants to be her own person and could probably be very successful in New York, and she's a very capable person.
Yeah.
But there is something that keeps her very much anchored and tied and sort of drowning with her family.
Right. I mean, I think you bring up a good point, though. In any family, if you're not the first child and I'm the third, it's, you know, there is that whole thing of like, well, there is this history, and obviously, like, you remember it and you're part of it, but it's already been rewritten by the time you get there.
Right.
You know, and so clearly for Meg, that is the case. I was just reading some sort of fans on Facebook talking about Bloodline, and some of the phrases they use over and over again are like Rayburn family values, and
right.
which I love.
Very tongue-in-cheek, yes.
But yeah, another one, I think they describe the shoreline outside of the family's inn as the beach of broken families, which I thought was so great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think what's also really interesting is that, you know, Meg is a complex character. And I know there's been a lot of talk, and it is true that for women, there hasn't been, I would say historically, these kind of complex characters that are able to unfold and develop in the way that she has. And I would say TV's changed quite a bit, maybe in the last 10 years. And you have been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be involved in series where you kind of were able to have these characters that had more depth, and you were able to develop them over an amount of time. So, I mean, how did that sort of inform when you came in? Obviously, Freaks and Geeks is a little different from Bloodline.
Yeah, but a great character. I mean, really, and especially for, you know, as a young woman and a high school girl, that character is, she's very thoughtful. She's smart, but she's going through a lot of different things. I don't know. She was just an incredible character. I've been really lucky, you know. And with Meg, I think it's really interesting. I think she changes the most from season 1 to season 2.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Kevin is always sort of a live wire, as he's described, and John is, you know, very early on that he's going to do something. Right, you see it sort of. You see a flash of it in the first scene, and then you sort of watch the whole season thinking that's not really what happened, right?
Yeah.
But
he's a good guy.
Yeah, well, right.
So we think.
But I think that she really changes. I think what happens really changes who she is, and she ends up changing a lot from the first season to the second season. And the second season, I think you really get to explore more of who she is.
Right.
She gets a little bit of a drinking problem at one point, too. I saw on the internet someone called her Boozy Meg. I liked that.
No, okay, so I've read that that your family at one point, did they own a winery, or am I getting this wrong? Was there some sort of?
Oh, we had grapes on a property on where the house was. They had grapes, and so we would make wine, but we didn't really own a winery.
Okay,
we just were like lucked into some grapes and turned them into wine. Some of it was really good, and some of it was not so good.
Because I sort of, that came up in the back of my mind as I was watching Meg drink more and
Right,
more.
right,
and
right.
More. I'm like, interesting simpatico.
Meg is probably a better drinker than I ever was. Not that she's good at it, but if that's any sort of indication of what I was like.
Right. But I mean, with her, with her character, and in terms of, she is an overachiever in a way, and you see this sort of, she's an attorney, right? And she's sort of seemingly kind of has been the perfect daughter, but she's obviously pushes herself. In her character, I mean, how much do you personally relate to anything? She's a total mess, and I'm not saying that's you.
Right.
I mean, of her
I can be a total mess too, let's be honest. No, I think that, I do relate. I think there is something where, as a daughter, you want to, for me, it's important to be close and good to my family, and I prize my family above all, and I think that's something that Meg has, and I think with Meg, it's to a fault. Even becoming a lawyer was something that she knew could help the family in terms of, she thinks in her mind that she did it because it would be a way to help with the family business, which she ends up doing, and almost resenting too. The hard part about being a people pleaser, which is something I think that Meg thinks, I think you could call her that in some ways.
Right.
Is that you can't really please yourself sometimes, and I think well, I always sort of say that road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think she may have good intentions. When she picked up the phone and thought she was helping John, I think she had the best intentions to help somebody.
Right.
Right,
and
I just it truly backfires for her, and I think that's also part of, she doesn't truly know herself. Even when she gets the job for New York, I think she doesn't really decide until it becomes so chaotic that she has to make a decision, which I find is an interesting way to operate, when you wait till chaos comes to decide something, and I think that's something that comes with trying to please other people around you.
Right, but also that's kind of a pattern in Bloodline. There is that like chaos pushing to a decision, and not always and often not the best decision.
Right. Yeah. You're forced. I think it's sort of it's a look at human nature when people become very desperate.
Right.
And everybody reacts in different ways.
Yeah. I mean, when you, was there any concern, because it is so intense, that viewers might have an issue like rolling along with Bloodline? And clearly it hasn't been a problem, but was there any point where you were like, wow, this is like so heavy, I don't know, if this is going to kind of...
Well, I think if you were in the first season, you know how heavy it is.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I saw somebody describe it as voluntary anxiety, and I thought that was it truly is. But that to me is what is exciting about it, having a thriller element to it, because it's not necessarily a thriller where you think somebody's going to jump out from around the corner and kill you. Although there are some moments that are scary. It's more of just this sort of feeling that creeps in you and makes you think about these characters. And I sometimes I just think it's how do you like any of these characters? But you follow them, and they're just, I think, because it's an interesting exploration of people sort of driven to their worst.
Right. And so, okay, I just need to know, like, how many? Okay, with Mad Men, let's jump over to Mad Men for a minute. So, can you count how many women have come up to you and gone, you are the lucky one? You not only slept with Don Draper, but he fell in love with you. Right. Your character.
That was just an amazing part.
Yeah.
I mean, and also with that, I didn't know going in, where that would lead. And I had no idea even who I was going to be in scenes with. But, and then for Sylvia to turn out to be who she was. I loved the show, so I was happy. I was happy to trust the show and be part of it. But she was just an incredible character, and I got to do so much fun stuff. But of course, that's happened to me several times throughout my career. Though I've been very lucky to work with great people, and clearly some gentlemen that women are crazy about.
Gentlemen that women are crazy. That is such a nice, polite way to say it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, the bow in my hair, so I'm incredibly polite today.
I mean, but not only, like you're saying, going into Mad Men, you obviously don't know what's going to happen with Sylvia, but the fact that, there was many women that moved in and out of that character's life, out of Don Draper's life, and she actually had, something else to her that sort of kept her in there. So I don't know, I just thought it was a really unique character in a way, even for that show.
Yeah, I remember reading the last script where, spoiler alert, but where I hate that vocabulary, I just use that term. But yeah, but you know what I'm saying, like where he gets found out for the first time after being such a philanderer.
Right.
The whole series, I thought that was, on one hand, devastating for the character who finds them.
Right.
And at the same time exciting as the one actress who gets to play the mistress, who sort of pulls the, who just exposes that about him.
Right.
But yeah, she was an interesting character for sure. It was really fun to play her.
Yeah, it's really with the spoiler alert. It's really tricky with that now. Like, when do we say that? Because when it's because things are streaming all the time. So are we just always bound to secrecy?
Yeah.
Can we ever?
If I really like something, I try not to read anything about it or see anything about it. But it's difficult. As long as it's not in the headline, I think I can most of the time avoid it.
Right.
Isn't there an app where you can push something, and you tell it something you don't want spoiled, and it can despoil things for you?
All right.
I've never used it, but
well, no, I haven't.
Maybe I imagined it, and if it doesn't exist, maybe I'll invent it.
She's going to invent it. If anybody steals that, we have it on record here because it's your app.
I think
that
it's
is
already
yours.
out there. I'm always late to the game on that stuff.
So then, moving back to Freaks and Geeks, so that series has a really sort of special, I don't want to say cult following, but there's such a love for that.
Cult following. I don't mind.
Cult following.
Turns out to be a good thing
Okay,
nowadays.
all right.
Back in the 60s, not so good, but now it's all right, right?
That's right, as long as it doesn't lead to Kool-Aid and
Right.
we're fine. But so I don't know, for you, every single interview I sort of have seen with you, that comes up, and it has here. Sorry. But,
No, I love it.
Okay.
I don't get sick of it.
Yeah.
I get asked if I get sick of it, and then I think, should I be sick of it? but I don't. No, I loved it, and it was a very, very special time in my life and in my career, and it will always and forever be.
So, with Bloodline, moving forward with Meg, so I know obviously, we don't know where this is going. Maybe you do know where things might be going, but
no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I have no idea. I don't even know. There's a scene where I'm about to say something, and I don't even know what the something is. So we don't know.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten in season 2. It's not just the family dysfunction anymore, the family secrets, or the lies, or all of that. Now all these other characters have come in. So you started out. And I would just like to say also the cast is amazing, right? I mean, Sissy Spacek, I mean, you have...
The list is just, you can't even start to name one person because each they're just incredible. The people I get to work with, that's what makes the show so much fun, too, is that every day when you show up to work, you're working alongside someone who it just feels like you're doing what you love the most. It's really, it's an extraordinary group of people.
So now there's like John Leguizamo's in, I'm never going to say his last name right, but one day I will, playing this really creepy skin-crawling character.
Right.
So there's all these new elements coming in, and I mean, when you're looking at Meg and how she's dealing with all this, and I know you don't know what's coming next, but like, can you imagine the situation getting more complicated than it is now?
Oh, it has to. No, that's the exciting part. Is I would be very excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
Which I think they did so well in Damages.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that some characters are leaving and some characters are staying, and you wonder how they're going to do it in the next season, and they somehow managed to create something that you didn't expect. So that's what I was excited about, thinking about this being a multiple season show.
Right.
They're very good at recreating things and I mean, not recreating, but sort of making them feel new. If I could find the right word for that, it would be better, but it's live, so.
And you would think I would have that word, being a journalist, but
I'll go Google some stuff.
That's okay, we'll do it later, yeah. We'll put it on the app, on your app that you're going to.
Right.
The Lost Words app. We'll start that one. Have you sat down and watched Bloodline, and have you done the binge watching on it? Have you done like a 10-season run?
I have, but I have to do it again because I got a version that was early, so there was a stamp on it, but the stamp managed to be right over everybody's eyes, everybody's eyes for the most part. So it was like I was watching everybody with a blindfold on.
Okay.
So I feel like you know, as an actor, I like to watch what happens in people's eyes. So now I have to go back and watch the whole thing again.
Okay, all right, because when you do that, those characters follow you. I mean, I'm just saying, like the 10-season binge. Seriously, you're all sitting next to me right now.
That's
you
great.
are sitting next to me, but
yeah, I am. I'm really here.
You really are.
I am really here.
All right. Yeah, but I mean,
I'll also be in your car and in your house.
Will you? And then on that app,
Weird,
you're going to be everywhere. Wow. And then just the other thing I just have to say is because I have a son who. I don't think many people know that you've done the voices on regular show, right? And also on Gravity Falls, right? Do people know this? Are they surprised?
Some people do, and some people don't. And you know, I've been doing voices a little bit here and there throughout. So
yeah,
but yeah, Gravity Falls is they have a huge following.
Yeah.
And it's been great. And that show just ended. I did another show called Sanjay and Craig, where I got to play this little obnoxious neighbor kid. She got to sing a lot, which was really fun. And it's, you know, that kind of stuff is in regular show. That group of people they're so much fun to work with, and you actually go into the studio with everybody and record, as opposed to doing it on your own in the sound booth, which is, you know, most projects sort of work like that.
Okay.
So that's a really fun one to be part of. But yeah, I've been really lucky. I've gotten to do some fun stuff, sort of. You know, I don't know if you call it behind the camera. It's not really behind the camera, but just, you know, just voiceover work.
Right. I mean, so there's potentially things that your daughter could watch that clearly she's not going to be watching Bloodline anytime soon.
Right.
I hope.
No, I'm
I mean,
starting her on that.
We're starting
It's a rough
early.
world, kid.
Yeah, you know.
No, of course not. Yeah, she doesn't really. I don't think she really knows exactly what I do yet. So we'll see.
Well, maybe
we'll see when we introduce any of it to her.
That's going to be the introduction. Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting down with us and talking.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching the show.
Oh, of course. I can't wait until season 3.
I know. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
See what happens.
And thanks to everybody who's watched or sent in questions and all that stuff. Thank you so much.
And for more Emmy news, you can log on to latimes.com. Thank you.